Hey folks, um, news coming out of South Africa, Cape Town in particular, is a story of some 10 kids, teenage boys, who were recorded bullying another kid in a high school in Cape Town, Milnetorn, Cape Town, the West Coast. And there's been a lot of chatter. There's been a lot of chatter online about that. A lot of people talking about how these kids need to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law, all of that. And there's just been a lot of talk, man. And I watched the video. I watched the entire video, and I was saddened by it. I was saddened by it, and it brought back to me very bad memories of my childhood. I grew up in rural KZN in the early 90s. Um, I was obviously born in the late 80s, grew up in the 90s in rural KZN, KwaZulu-Natal, a very violent place. Violence was a very common occurrence. And so the violence that I have seen in my life is worse than the violence that I saw in that video. And this is not to say that this must not in any way be misconstrued as to say that I'm justifying the violence. I'm not justifying the violence. And if anyone comes here and say that I'm justifying the violence, you know what? I don't even have any response to you. I just know that 99% of the times when an 18-year-old kid is beating up, viciously beating up a 15-year-old kid in a high school, that doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from a lot of environmental factors, especially when it comes to issues of violence. Because, as a Christian, I don't think that kids are born good. No, I don't think that people are good. I believe that people are fallen sinners who, unless God saves them, they continue to grow in evil. But the issue of violence is an extreme thing that comes from environmental conditions. And when I left home in the end of 2007, beginning of 2008, leaving KwaZulu-Natal for the first time, it was for the first time that I moved to the city. I first moved to Rustenburg, Johannesburg, and then I moved to Cape Town for my studies. And I lived in suburban Cape Town. This was the first time I was living in an environment where violence was not a day-to-day occurrence, and where it wasn't also something that is expected to happen. And even when I was in Cape Town, at the University of Cape Town, there were instances of violence, especially from kids who grew up like me, who couldn't resolve disputes without physical violence, and then they got expelled from university. I know some kids at a particular residence who were engaged in very bad physical fights, and then they got expelled because the culture that they came from was a very violent culture. So, as a kid, was I bullied and was I assaulted by older boys? Yes, I was. Yes, I was. And it wasn't like rare or infrequent. It happened often. So, in the sense that you knew that you were at the mercy of older boys. So, we were viciously bullied as kids. And then also when we became teenagers, we also started bullying other kids. At some stage, when I was in the late primary school to, um, or what Americans would call middle school, we were involved in physical fights almost every day. People will bleed, people will get injured, um, people would break their teeth or break their arms. This was happening frequently. And am I a victim? No, I'm not a victim. Do I want people to feel sorry for me? Hell no, I don't want you to feel sorry for me. I'm just saying that this was what happened. And yes, we ended up bullying other kids ourselves. It happened. It happened a lot. Late 90s, early 2000s. And there is one particular friend of mine who was in my class who is one of my best friends who was viciously bullied when we were in primary school and middle school. We sometimes talk about how much he was bullied. Man, this stuff was bad, and it altered us. We still carry that trauma. So many of us obviously have gone on to receive counseling and therapy for various conditions or situations, but we still carry the trauma of being in a very violent environment. When I was working with teenagers in Cape Town, many of those teenagers were in very violent environments, violent homes, and violent school systems. It would be unrealistic for me to expect any of those kids, I was in the Cape Flats at the time, to not be have a disposition towards violence. One of the reasons why there's so much violence in South Africa is because a lot of the kids now who are now young men or who are now men grow up in very violent environments. And it's also one of the reasons why some people are like perpetually violent. So even when I really don't like to go home often, but when I am at home, 2 weeks doesn't pass before a violent incident happens. And this is among adults now who are leading families. And now the way the issues are resolved now are through gun violence. So when I saw those kids, a big part of me wondered, will it really fix the problem to destroy these kids' futures by prosecuting them? Obviously, prosecuting them for something that probably they deserve to be prosecuted for it. I'm thinking, will that be the best solution to that problem? I don't know. And I wouldn't tell the family of the kid who was viciously bullied what they should do. I'm just thinking of it at a societal level, that would that be the best outcome? Um, Condemning those kids to being convicted felons who would later won't be able to live a meaningful life and become um, responsible adults who are contributing into the South African society. Would that be the best thing to do? I don't know. I don't have answers for it. I'm just saying that the problem of violence in South Africa is endemic, it's complex, it's wide ranging, and I don't know right now what does it look like because I don't live in those communities, but I just know that violence has deep roots in our South African communities. And obviously that's a problem that needs a solution. I just don't know what the solution is. And obviously, ever since I left home, I've been in environments that don't have a lot of violence, and I haven't been in a physical fight or anything like that ever since I left high school. I haven't been engaged in in any form of violence ever since I left home. And many of us who left those environments have not been involved in any form of violence ever since we left. But I'm recognizing the fact that many of the kids that we grew up with died violently. Some of them were stabbed to death. Some of them were shot to death. Um, Many of the kids we grew up with did not reach 18 or 20 years old. They died. So violence is a big problem in our communities. So what is supposed to happen? I don't know. I really don't know. Yeah, so that's really what my limited thoughts are about this matter. Um, I sort of I empathize with a kid who was viciously bullied, as I've been in his shoes before. I also empathize with those kids who were bullying him. Not because I think that they are victims who deserve to be pitied, but no, because they are kids who find themselves in a particular socio-economic environment in South Africa, and finding themselves in an environment like South Africa, which is brutally violent. So I don't have any answers. Um, I just don't know if punitive responses to this are the best way to go forward. So that's really what my thoughts are about this. I personally would always share about um, the difficult and challenging places that I've been. People really don't know where we come from. People don't know what we've been through. Some people, they see us being sophisticated, living in suburban Houston or suburban London or wherever you are in the world, and they think that we've had a smooth sailing. No, we've gone through hell and back. We've been through very difficult things. The things that we've been through, you would never imagine. The things that we've been through were meant to destroy us. But here we are, we're still strong, we're still going, and we're doing everything we can to the best of our abilities to be law abiding, to respect our neighbors, our fellow men, and to not violate anyone's rights. That's what we are trying to do. But let that not fool you into thinking that we haven't been through hell and back. We've been to hell and back. We've been to very difficult places. We've experienced very painful things. We've experienced very dark things. And I don't know what the future is for those kids. But it's a sad situation. Cheers.